Hi there. It's week 3 coming. So this week is about fairness. So we will go through a famous game, Dark Forest, which is really important in the CK space. And then we will talk about verifiable delay functions, which is a gadget that allows you to make sure that things are truly random. We would not go a lot into it because it's quite technical, and the course is supposed to be focused on practical building. But I think everyone should know what is BDFs in this space. So I would not go through the content, of course. That's not what I do. I'm instead gonna just quickly talk about a couple of things. One is that this is for some of you will be the last week you have to do coding exercises in your assignments. It doesn't mean that there will be no more assignment. You will still have to do assignments. You should still follow conceptually what the next few weeks are we will go through. But for some of you, if you want to choose to go to what we call stream B, then you will start to build your project from next week onwards. So that might be good news for some of you if you find a coding exercise a little bit time consuming. Building your project, of course, is also time consuming, but at least you are it's your own project and you will get to exercise a bit more creativity this way. And I will talk a little bit about who should go to stream A and stream B. It's really up to you. But I assume that most of you, some of you would not even have the decision to make, because if you don't have any Rust background and if you're not quite prepared to pick it up on the fly, which means that if you're not very comfortable with learning a completely new language in the context of this course while learning other stuff, then probably it will be wise for you to go to stream B. So I want to talk a bit about, so if you go to stream B, what to do. So choosing your project, I know that is quite a fun and also can be challenging thing to think about. I think the first thing I would say is don't be too ambitious. I think most of you will be too ambitious, and you would later regret how you bite off a bit more than you could chew. And it's just hard to do a project like that in on the fly. It's not that easy, and the tooling is going to be nastier than you think. So CK is still a young space, even though it's a lot better than a few years ago when the toolings are really not there. And I think now the tooling is there, but still you will get into a lot of bugs you have to fix, and is not as simple as just designing a product. You have to go through a fair bit of nitty gritty to get it to work. So as such, I really think that forking someone else's project is totally fine. The space is actually still so young that we don't think it wouldn't be wise for you to think of any competition. If someone has already done something you want to do, it's good news. It means that it can be done. In fact, you can just go and look at what they've done and try to fork it and try to improve it. And that's a totally legit project to do. In fact, it might be the wisest thing for you to do. So don't let the desire to be original get in the way of, blinding you from the low-hanging fruits. Low-hanging fruits are good stuff. I mean, is not, we wouldn't think less of you. In fact, try to be practical, because the space is so young. Think about how many DeFi projects that are there that are similar. Any number of them. And do you need to be completely original to really make a lot of money or make a really good product? No. In fact, you can often build on top of someone else's product and just do a little twist, just to make it a little bit better, just change a little bit, and then you can be totally successful. So don't miss those opportunities, and try to build something from ground up. Of course you can, if you're a good coder and if you have a good idea, you definitely should go for it. I don't mean to say only uncreative projects will succeed, but I mean many relatively boring project, if it works well, it would succeed. Sometimes just forking someone's project and just improving the front end, it might be a huge deal, because the space, that might be what the space needs sometimes. So don't be too ambitious. Yeah, be practical. And along these lines, a few things are, I think, certainly exciting. If you're wondering, I like many other people, it's not the only way I do market research, but a lot of people would follow the Messari thesis. So the Messari report, you can search it like Messari as in Messari. Messari report. If you don't know that, you should definitely read that. So they publish an annual report. So Messari 2022 thesis, that's one of the quickest way, even though the thing is thick, I think it's 150 pages or more, but that is really the bible of crypto market research. So if you can just get a sense of where we are at, and from that you will see that a number of areas are hot. Definitely, I think DAO tooling will be very important. So building tools that would be used for DAOs, and in that context, all these authentication protocols, um, privacy protecting protocols, those will be very important. And then I think on the random channel, we talked a little bit about dating apps, and someone thought that it would be a joke. Actually, I don't think it's a joke. I think these could be very useful applications. So the situation is, in dating applications, you really want to make sure that if you're looking at someone else's profile, you want to make sure that it is legit. The person does not put some fake information there. But at the same time, you don't want someone to have to post their birth certificate or social security number out in the public, right? So there has to be some way to verify the information. You know that that person really is who they claim they are, and yet you don't have to, they don't have to share everything in public. So that kind of authentication will be extremely important. And you can think of like LinkedIn, like it's another situation. Someone claims to have worked at a big company. How do you know they didn't lie? And you don't want them to show too much information to verify that to the public, and yet you want to make sure that they actually are legit. And a lot of people in big companies, they when they look for other jobs, then they also don't want to make their move public until they get a job offer. So a lot of this kind of thing would you can see CK can be helpful there. And then games, I think games is I don't play all these games. I used to when I was really young, but I don't do that anymore. But at the same time, you realize that it's a very fast growing industry, especially in crypto. All these play to earn games, they haven't been so good at attracting the traditional gamers into this space, but there are new gamers who would care. So games can be a very interesting area, which is why this week we will go through Dark Forest. And then NFT is another area that I don't personally dabble in, but certainly is an area that the space has grown a lot, and especially for NFT infrastructure. So not just like creating new NFTs, but how do you let's say airdrop NFTs, and that a lot of these tools are not quite there. So if you airdrop NFTs to different accounts, I think right now they are not privacy protected. And if you want to ask people to whitelist their new accounts, and of course it wouldn't really work, because if it's a brand new account, you can't whitelist it. So there has to be a way that people can receive airdrops, maybe not just NFT, but any kind of airdrops. And in fact, that's another tooling area. I think there's only a couple of protocols which deals with how to do airdrops while protecting privacy. So yeah, many things here, and by now you should know the three principal reasons you would use CK is really privacy, and then fairness. We'll go through this week, and also scaling, which you have done last week, is a little um, is a challenging. Sorry, not last week. Next week you'll do scaling, which is a challenging area that you'll go into as you go into infrastructure building. So that comes down to the next point. If you know some Rust, or if you are prepared to learn it, let's say you've learned languages very quickly. Let's say you're really a kind of pro level programmer. You think you can learn a new language pretty quickly on the fly. Then you could possibly go into Stream A. And I think the differences are clear. Stream A, we pay you more because you will have to do more exercises. So you can look up the doc on our website. I think in stream A, ultimately one assignment would be worth $500, and stream B would be 350, I think. And so the difference is just to reflect the fact that in stream A you have to do more work. You have to still basically, if you find the last few weeks hard, and this week's as well, you find it very difficult to cope with, you may not want to do that. It would get a bit harder from here. And so you may not want to do stream A. I mean, you can do stream B. And stream A does not mean that it's all, just higher power and better. It's just different. So at Harmony, of course, we are an infrastructure building group. We are a layer one solution. So we like people who build infrastructures. We ourselves are infrastructure building people. But I think it's just different. In some ways, building infrastructure, your impact will be longer lasting, because a piece of infrastructure can impact a lot of other stuff. In terms of market, in a sense, you can care less about the market if you build infrastructure, because once you build a piece of infrastructure, many different applications would get to benefit. So yeah, you can worry less about the market trends and make sure that your things will be used. And it's somewhat more analytic. You have to think about the different solutions. But some people like thinking about the market and thinking about users and creating applications. I think it's a different kind of activity. It's more creative. One is maybe more analytical and more theoretical. So it's really hard to say which is better, and it's really up to you. But the bottom line is you have to be a reasonably good Rust programmer to do stream A. And your final project might be somewhat more constrained, because you would be coding up to week 6. So you don't have as much time to develop your own project. So we will probably try to come up with project ideas for you. We'll think about, okay, this is maybe a bridge that you can build. This might be a small modification of a roll-up that you can actually do that would be useful. It's harder to be creative. You can, in fact, some of us last cohort, someone did, and we'll try to help you too. It's not like in stream A it's harder to come up with a final project. We will definitely sort it out for you, but it's just that it's less of a creative process in the sense of you won't be thinking about dating apps and how to do private restaurant reviews or fun stuff like that. Instead, you'll be building bridges and how to scaling solutions and infrastructures like that. So that's pretty much all I want to say this week. Let me end on a high note. So zkDAO got funded finally. It took a bit longer because logistics sometimes take longer, but as expected, zkDAO got funded, and the DAO received $1 million in operation, which is very high because the budget is for a few months. And then on top of that, we have another $10 million for grants to be given out from zkDAO. And so that $11 million is the basis on which I made these kind of crazy high-sounding promises about basic income. So the idea is that if you launch a product, if you launch a final product, there's a fairly high chance, I can say maybe even very high chance, that you can your project will be funded by launching something on our testnet that actually has a legitimate use case. We think it involves zk and it's open source. Then we will fund you, and you can look at the forum link and see what the details of the grant proposal requirement is. Basically, it's a one-pager. Anyone can write it. It's very easy. And what you need to do is to the different milestones, and one milestone would attract you $3,000 of annual basic income that will be payable as long as the treasury lasts. And the math was calculated such that in principle, it can basically last forever. I'll explain more if you're interested. But basically, one milestone is 3,000, and if you hit all 5 milestones, then you get to have $15,000 passive income per year. And if you do hit milestone 4 or above, you can, in fact, you can even relaunch and try to launch a second product, and then get up to 30,000. And then if you launch like 5 products, you get what, $75,000 passive income per year. And we encourage you to do that. We don't think it's a cheat. We actually want you to actually make a living doing that and reach a point that you have enough passive income so you can just do whatever you want. And that's the ideal scenario for us. We want people to feel comfortable to basically quit their day job and just build what they want and go really creative and ambitious. And that's our goal here. So the treasury is large, so we're confident that we can actually fund all of you if you succeed. And we like to, and the funding would become, it's not like $11 million all there is. $11 million really is for the next few months. As you know, I work with the Harmony core team, and zero knowledge products is what we have on our roadmap till 2026. So we will, but if we do well, as of course, we'll continue funding this. And the part about the treasury, basically the idea is if you launch a product and reach up to milestone 5, so for each milestone, in fact, the DAO would then commit $20,000 into a tranche, and then we would not touch that money. And that money just would generate enough interest, and together with other investment, we think that paying you $3,000 basic income per milestone should be sustainable for the long run. And if you're worried about me not managing the treasury properly, first of all, I'm going to seek help from venture capitalists and other investment advice from professionals. And the good thing also is not done by me, it's done by the DAO. And if you launch a product, you become part of the DAO, so you get to govern how this fund will be spent. So I am quite confident that, well, basically some is in your hands, so you would not have to worry about me screwing up. And that really is the plan. So that's basically all I have to say. One last advice is, if you're thinking about your final project ideas, I highly recommend that you come up with multiple ideas. So if you're sure you're going to stream A, I suggest that you come up with at least 2 ideas, and then think about the pros and cons of each of them. Don't commit to the first idea you thought of. So just don't commit to anything. Basically, come up with different ideas. Think about the pros and cons. Don't worry about overlap. Other people doing it. Your project is not a concern at all at this point. Just have different ideas that you think would be good for the industry, and evaluate each of them, and then commit to it maybe last week when you really have to. So that's my final advice. All right, then I'll see you next week. All right, happy coding.